All right, everyone, welcome to the Medbay with Quantum Jump Medical. I am Bob Harkin. With me is my CEO, Mike Spectre.
How's it going?
Good. So this is our first ever episode of the Medbay. We're going to be talking about all things Star Citizen, especially as it pertains to our medical group. But we kind of wanted to do an introductory podcast episode right here where we kind of talk about our history, talk about the organization a little bit, and kind of talk about what we're going to be covering in all of these podcast episodes as we go along.
Yeah, it seems pretty simple enough.
Yeah, I think so. Why don't you start off? How'd you get into Star Citizen? How'd you get into the organization that you founded and run? Can I go through your history a little bit?
So, going to Jump Medical, we always laugh and we say it was a napkin idea. So I remember seeing something about Star Citizen way back when it was like early Kickstarter. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Wasn't playing PC then, so it didn't really pique my interest at the time. Until 2016, I was talking to one of my buddies and he's like, oh yeah, I play Star Citizen. I was like, that sounds familiar. Looking into it, I was like, oh yeah, it's that big space game. It's good to see something went for it over the 4 years that I forgot about it. Then originally I was going to do pirating and bounty hunting because that's what interests me. My first ship I purchased was the Hawk. But then after seeing everybody do that, I was like, well, let's try something different. So looking at what Star Citizen had planned, I noticed medical was the thing on there. And at the time, I was part of an armor unit doing pararescue. And I was like, okay, let's look at the idea of medical. And sitting down with my buddy, we came up with the idea of Quantum Jump Medical at 3 a.m. in the morning. And he's like, yeah, Quantum Jump Medical, we're just a jump away. And that tagline stuck with me so hard that I'm like, this is what it's going to go. So From there, we worked on a basic outline, got our first 3 members, and developed into what we are today. I have people like Bob here, who's our chief marketing officer, who does amazing work. And our leadership team is fantastic. We have partnerships with over 100 different organizations. We're the exclusive medical organization for Ammo Esports. We were featured at Star Citizen CitizenCon last year for 2953 for our bot that I have developed for rescue beacons and stuff. But I'm sure we're going to have a whole episode on that later on.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. We will definitely be covering the bot.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it for Star Citizen, like for Quantum Jump. It's just something that 3 a.m., super tired, and just spiraled down into this.
Sometimes that's how it goes, I suppose. Yeah. So I guess I'll talk about my history and how I got into Star Citizen. So I'd been watching it since like you said, since the Kickstarter. And I'm going to have to admit, I was one of the haters. I was one of the, oh, that's a scam. It's never going to come out. It's never going to happen. Like I heard all of the negative sides of the news about Chris Roberts and his past and all that stuff. And I was just like, nah, that's like, because especially at the time, there were several games that came out or that were on Kickstarter that never happened. Like they just took the money and ran. And I'm like, maybe it won't run, but it's just never going to come to fruition. But then I kept hearing about it. One of the ones that kind of got me thinking more about it was, so I listened to the Rooster Teeth podcast, and Gus was talking about it in one of the episodes, and he's like, oh yeah, I bought like a $300 ship. I don't even remember what he said it was at the time, but and they were all giving him a hard time, making fun of him for it and all this stuff, and I kind of was thinking the same thing. But then I had started playing, I tried EVE. that was a no-go. Like, that's just like spreadsheet simulator. I couldn't really get into like the taking days to research like how to navigate a ship or something like that. There's just something didn't pull me in. So then I jumped over to Elite Dangerous, and I played that for quite a while. And I liked the flight mechanics and all that stuff, and I liked the ships, but it just, there wasn't enough depth to it for me. It was really like you were either cargo running or you were fighting, and neither of those really struck me, really engaged me. But then after a while of playing Elite Dangerous, I started looking at Star Citizen again. And when I first bought in, I didn't have a computer good enough to actually run it. So I think I loaded it on my computer, tried to run it once, and it just died immediately and would not even let me in the game. So like, I'm like, well, I guess I'm not going to play this right now. But then that computer died, and I got a new computer, and it was good enough to run it. So I'm like, I'm going to try this again. I'm going to re-download it, get into the game, start playing. So I bought the Aurora. That was my first ship. That was the only ship I had for a while. I jumped in. It felt pretty natural, like a natural progression from Elite Dangerous. It really had a lot of, obviously different controls, but it was pretty similar, and especially flight characteristics and stuff at the time when I jumped in. It was a pretty natural jump over. I didn't have to like relearn a whole lot of things, just obviously the FPS being able to walk around was a lot different than the way Elite Dangerous handles everything. But I played for several months, just kind of on my own. I kind of upgraded. I went to, I think, the Avenger Titan first, and then at one point I got a Nomad, and I just don't like the Nomad for some reason. I don't like the cockpit. It's too square for me. I know this is gonna set a bunch of people off, but the cockpit was too square for me for some reason. I love the interior space of it. I like the like space camper kind of feel to it, and even the back. But they were just working on fixing it to where you could actually put the rock in the back, but it was still like bugging out at the time. So I was like, well, I would really love to have the rock in the back of that, but it just like every time it would just fall off or blow up or whatever. So then I think I went to the Cuddy Black. At first I rented it to do some rock mining, and started doing that to make some money at first. But then I was looking around, and I was kind of have a similar background to you. I had been playing Arma and Altus Life specifically, and so I wasn't necessarily doing the combat rescue or anything, but I was doing the civilian medical within Altus Life. So I had become, some friends and I had started a server, and so I was the head medic on that, and it was just like flying out to the gang members and picking them up and bringing them back to the hospital. But that was very fun for me. So then I started looking into it, and I had seen that Star Citizen was at the time thinking about medical. I don't know if they'd even like really put any plans together for it. They just said that there was going to be medical in the game, was really all they had so far. So I started looking around for medical organizations and just orgs in general. I had watched a video, I think they were called Synchronizer or Synchronized or something like that, was the first org that I had kind of looked at. And I think I put in an application and started talking to them and said, are you going to do search and rescue? Are you going to do anything like that? And they're like, well, yeah, future plans down the road. We're thinking about it. So it I kind of stuck around a little bit, but then I kept looking for orgs, and I think it was a Reddit post on Star Citizen Guilds that I came across Quantum Jump, and I was like, oh yeah, this is like a dedicated organization, and that kind of got me excited about getting out there and work, and even just like having a group to work with and kind of similar interests. And so I applied and got in and started working with the non-combat medical side. And then very quickly it was like, hey, we need a spot to fill. Can you be in charge of the non-combat medical? I'm like, yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. And then I've been here ever since, and we've had a lot of adventures in the game, and it's nice to do some regular missions and like things like right now, to date this podcast, it is currently Siege of Orison is going on. So we tend to do a lot of rescues during that event. And like Spectre said, we help out with Atmo, and that's very fun. We just did the Daymar Rally, and we're a big part of that, which was very crazy this year. We went through a lot for that one, but it was good. No, we love to help out with those things now, and it's nice that you've made those connections with these larger groups and these people. And it was so awesome to meet all these people during CitizenCon. I mean, just going to the Atmo thing and meeting everybody and knowing who the people behind the mics is like getting to see their faces and meet them in person was awesome. And then during CitizenCon, I mean, I think between you and I, we probably talked to over 2,000 people and just about the org. And I mean, there were so many people that we were just like, we're getting excited about it. I mean, the people that I had in my, like, I was taking names and writing notes about who I met, and like all these people were like, oh my God, you guys are doing some really cool stuff. And especially, I mean, we were talking, like you said, we were talking about the bot, and I think people got really excited about that, and we've brought on a bunch of partnerships through that. And I think especially going forward, people will be very excited about what we're doing here and what we can be doing.
Yeah, to add on, like CitizenCon was nuts because, yes, Bob and I have seen each other's faces through cameras like we are right now.
Right.
But actually being able to physically meet somebody is way different.
Yeah.
And meeting all the Atmo guys that we've worked together for, I think we're on our like 4th or 5th year or something like that with Atmo, and all the way back from like 20. So it'll be 4th year now, because it was 2020, I believe, when we first did our first thing with them. Because it was before medical was even in game. Our first job was actually a food truck. But I mean, we'll go a whole episode of Atmo stuff as well.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, like Bob joined in, and I remember sitting there talking with our another higher up person, Kenix, and we'll definitely have him on one time. And we're like, oh yeah, we're just gonna promote you because nobody else is like around to do it, and as a joke. And then as soon as Bob left, I was like, I actually might want to promote him because he actually is doing pretty good work. and he's been demoted ever since. That's our joke, is Bob never gets promoted. He gets demoted to more work.
Exactly. Yes. No, it's great. I've loved every minute of being in the org, because I mean, we get to do some cool stuff, and even like our discussions during CitizenCon while we're sitting there and they're announcing these new things, we came up with a whole new division, or not necessarily a whole new division, but a whole new section of the org that we get to participate in. And it's just cool things like that, us sitting around having these discussions about what we can do, what's going to come out, what we're going to be able to share with others. And I think those conversations are very fun. And I think that's a big part of the Star Citizen community in general. Like, I think everybody loves those speculations. Like, some of the biggest YouTubers within the SC realm are just sitting there speculating about what's going to come in the future. And I think, especially this year, there's some very exciting things coming up. I know that we're looking forward to, and things that are going to completely change the game and how we interact with the game. So, I mean, I don't know if we want to talk about some of those things coming up, like kind of our predictions or whatever we want to discuss, what we think is actually going to come into the game this year, what we're looking forward to, kind of things. So lead off, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So things that were shown were obviously like the new star map, the new HUDs, master modes, base building, the new ships. Like they had like all these are things that are coming out in the next 12 months, and that included technically Squadron 42 to be released in the next 12 months. They said Squadron 42 is feature complete, and that is very much believable.
Yeah.
It is very much believable that that could be feature complete at this point in time, because they've already started moving people off of the project who are the PU to help out with that.
Yeah, I think they said
what we're going to get in 12 months.
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. What I guess, what do you think is most likely? What do you think are the kind of the framework, the basics that we're definitely going to get this year? In your mind?
So as of right now, they're doing the technical preview branch, I think it is, where they're testing the replication layer. And I've seen some videos on that, and that's working phenomenally right now. I've seen a few little bugs here and there that happen with it, like the elevators or kind of a thing. Features. But it does look like it's working. And so that's exciting that we're going to get a replication layer. So out of everything shown, the UI, the star map, the more the character created physics, like the custom character creator, all that stuff I see possible. The ships, at least the ones that they confirmed will come this year, I see as possible. The biggest one being the Polaris this year.
Right.
That's the ship I'm waiting for the most, and it's in white box now, I think. Because it's gray box then white box, right? And then final.
Other way around.
So it's white box then gray box.
Yeah.
Okay, then it should be in gray box now. Because I know it's in the stage 2. But we won't know until 2 weeks from now when we get the roadmap update. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
Base building, and I've already told Bob, but we need to do a whole episode on base building, so I'm not going to get too much into it. I don't think it's coming this year. I think we'll be really close, like maybe Q1, Q2 next year. I can see that as a possibility because the video shown was in-game engine stuff. So it's possible. I just think there's too much logistical things, and I have a book of questions, like an actual literal book
physical
of questions.
I think we'll probably test it this year. I have a feeling we'll test it this year, but like you say, I don't think it'll actually get put into the game.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of cool stuff, I think. Master modes definitely will be coming this year. Engineering tier 1 I could see easily coming this year. What were some other things?
I'm most excited about the star map. I know you are. That's the thing I've been complaining about since I started, was the star map, and I know everybody else complains about it too. But that's I think one of the most exciting things that they can put in this year.
Freight elevators.
Yeah. I think for as much as I'll be honest, I thought of last year as the cargo year, the year of cargo, but I think this will be a big year for cargo as well, because like you say, freight elevators are going to come in, and that's going to change how we kind of get into the game, because I know we talk about all the time that, I have to go down and fly down to a moon just so I can get another ground vehicle or whatever, or load it up with different things, and this is going to change how we can actually get there, and it's going to make things a lot faster and more seamless, I think. I'm hoping to where we can actually pull it up in our hangar and get it ready to go right then. We can have those sessions where either beforehand or when we're having people wait for us or getting everybody in the same station and getting everybody together to have our like events, a few people can be loading up the ship and having whatever we need for that specific mission, especially, I think will be good because we can switch those out a lot faster. Obviously, generally, we have a kind of a standard complement that we carry with us, but I think we can change out faster, and that'll be fun. Yeah, like you said, I think engineering definitely, at least tier 1, will be in there, which, kind of going back to something we said earlier, I think it will be cool if and when they get firefighting in the game. And I hope that kind of with engineering tier 1, that comes along, which they said it would come alongside engineering. So I'm excited to see how that plays out and how much running around we have to do now that there's fire in the game and we have to go put out the cooler started on fire. We got to go run back and put it out real quick, or the quantum drive or whatever. I think it will be interesting.
Yeah, with the firefighting, I kind of hope that we get a dedicated ship, like a firefighting ship. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
The Cutlass Yellow. It's like one of the French fire trucks where they're yellow and like, what is it, yellow and red or yellow and white? Something like that.
Yeah.
Like yellow and something. I don't know. I'm not French.
Right.
But that'd be kind of cool to have like a dedicated ship or ground vehicle for that.
Oh yeah.
What happened? Probably not. I think they're going to stick with the fire extinguishers that they've shown. But it definitely would be kind of cool to have like a dedicated ship, and like you could have like attack lines. It's like you can fly into the ship and actually bring an attack line with you, and it would be hooked up to the ship, so you have more than just the fire extinguisher. Maybe it's more efficient. Has obviously more capacity.
Right.
I mean, this.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be very cool. Like you say, and that just made me think of like you attach kind of like the Liberator, and then it attaches lines and stuff to fill up all the spaces and put out the fires and stuff. And then I guess you wouldn't really need an external fire extinguisher or fire truck kind of thing, because should extinguish once it goes out into space. But like you said, going in and being more efficient at putting out fires in a ship would be really cool. But I guess talking about base building, you would have to fly down and
I was literally about to add that to my base building notes about what about base building fires.
Base
like
building
fires, like literally talking about here is like, oh, what about that? So now it's going right into the notepad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep. Yeah, I was thinking about space, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess you would have to, on the ground, you would have atmosphere, and you would have to put out fires around the base. And like I said, a dedicated ship or vehicle would be great for that. A ground vehicle would be really cool to drive around your base.
No, it would be really cool. The ground vehicle, medical vehicle. Like, that's what I want.
Yes. Which
a lot of people are speculating that Ursa that was shown at CitizenCon is going to be a medical variant. Hope it is, because, I think that's what we've been asking for forever.
Yeah.
Like, literally forever.
Just especially more dedicated ground vehicles in general, but yeah, obviously we want to be able to drive into a bunker and have everything we need, or drive up to a bunker and have everything we need to rescue people right there. And if we need to extract them, obviously a ground vehicle is going to be great to keep us on the ground, keep us under the fire, get us to a ship, and then we can extract them further. And I think obviously Ursa would be cool. I know we've talked about the Atlas platform. Would be very cool if we can get a medical variant on there. I still think it'd be cool if we had the STV had a patient bed on the side of it. Like, just instead of having the passenger seat, just put the medical bed right there. I think it would be very cool.
I was just about to say the Atlas platform. They have the base building Atlas platform, which is a pickup truck with a hitch, and it has a trailer, like the big base building trailer. Modify that trailer.
Mhm.
That would be pretty cool. Large thing. It could have like 3 or 4 beds. It could be a real mobile facility.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I like that idea. When we were talking about it earlier, that you could have different trailers that you just like. Doesn't matter what the front end looks like. You just back up to whatever trailer you need that you have ready to go. And like you say, you have the firefighting variant parked next to the medical variant, parked next to the military variant. So if somebody comes
Or next to
along,
the refueling variant.
yeah. So then you have those options without having to switch out the engine that you're pulling it with, and you just have those ready to go based on what your needs are. And especially, like you say, when base building comes in, that's going to be necessary to have those quick response vehicles that are ready to go to whatever you need at the time. I think that's kind of, again, speculation and us wanting things, but I think those are some really cool ideas that we'll kind of go deeper into over the course of our podcast. I mean, that's kind of what we want to do here is speculate and talk about things that we either use currently or we would love to see in the future. I think that's a good kind of sum up of what we want to do here with the podcast, with the Medbay, what we're gonna be looking for over the future, and we'll have dedicated episodes to some of our tools that we use, and we'll always talk about vehicles and ships and all that. And I think we're definitely excited to start doing this podcast and putting it out there and just having some really fun discussions. And I'm kind of excited as well to bring along some of our leadership and some of the people in our org that'll kind of talk about various aspects of what we do and what they're kind of excited about and thinking about. So yeah, that's like I said, I think that's a good summation of the podcast and what's on our minds and what we're thinking about. But I think we should go to our segment that we want to do every time, and we're going to randomly pick a ship and have a discussion about it, or at least talk about our thoughts about it.
So, yeah. Go ahead. I have just a random wheel with every ship on there. Now, this does include ships that are not, as of now, purchasable, such as the Bengal, are on here, as well as some like the other concepts, like the original Zeus and stuff. So let's go ahead and spin. It's something easy.
Yeah.
And the Fury MX.
Oh my gosh.
That is the missile one.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So
I love the Furies. Just to start off, I think the Furies are a neat little ship. They did speculate that Fury XL, the giant one from Citizen Con, so I'm more excited for that. The bomber one is cool because it has that like little shield that comes down that I wish the other ones had.
yeah.
Not so much the racing one, but the other gun one.
Yeah, the L
The L.
or just the Fury, I think.
I think it's just the Fury something.
Yeah. I don't think it has a designation, if I remember right. Yeah, no, to be honest, I own both variants. Well, so I don't own the racing variant, but I own the other two variants, and I'll be honest, I don't pull them out very much. Like, I don't use them because I guess I feel like I have to load them up into a Carrack or load them up into something and take them somewhere. I guess I haven't really had those dedicated times when I've known what I was going to get into and known that I needed a small fighter, a snub fighter. They're very cool. The whole aesthetic of them are very cool. And like you said, that shield that kind of comes down on the MX is very interesting. The whole like screen lighting up when it comes down to switch into like a operator mode or whatever is very interesting and gets you kind of, a different feel when you're in there and you're kind of locked in there and fighting somebody. But yeah, I guess I haven't really done a whole lot of flying of those, and that's something I need to do more of and have more opportunities to have engagements to where I can have those with me, I guess, is something that I need to look for or look forward to. I just haven't played around with them.
Yeah. I know when you could put the Pisces on top of the Carrack, like on top of the hangar. Yeah. I always had below in the actual hangar, I had my Furies. I had all three of the racing, the missile, and the gun.
Right.
Because I'm like, oh, why not? Like, it's just dead space at that point, because we preferred to have the Pisces on top because it's quicker deployments, faster for us to use if we needed to send a team off of the Carrack to go rescue somebody. But then they changed that, and now we can't do that anymore. So now we gotta have somebody open and close the hangar. And
which I think you told me about the fact that you started doing that right before they changed it. So I never got the opportunity to load up the Furies inside because I didn't even think about it. Like I had something else inside the bay, but then I was like, oh yeah, I could switch those out, and then they fixed it or changed it or whatever. So it's like, well, damn, now I don't get to try that out.
Because in 317, you're only allowed to have 3 ships out at a time. So we couldn't do it back then. But then 318 dropped, and they didn't have a limit. So I had the 3 Furies, the Pisces, the Carrack, an Ursa, a Mule, and I think at the time I was running a Rock down to the thing. So my Carrack was packed full of stuff. And then I was like, yeah, this is really cool. Then they dipped away with the thing on top. So now I have to put my Pisces inside.
Well, it's disappointing that they even got rid of the air bubble and like the being able to walk into the ship. Like now you're floating even kind of up to the door and almost inside the door.
Yeah.
Once you get in there. So it was kind of disappointing that they changed all that. And like having that gravity onto the hangar door was awesome, where we could put a couple Pisces side by side and like I say, have stuff in the bay that we didn't necessarily need as ready deployment, but we kind of talked about it as our pocket carrier. The Carrack was our pocket carrier at the time because we could go on multiple deployments. We could have a full crew, and then like if medical rescue comes up, we can send them off to this planet, and oh, we have another medical rescue. All right, you go off to this moon and fly off, and we can have that on just all within one carrier in the Carrack. But now, obviously, we have to do it one at a time and take off from inside the bay, which is definitely slower. But I mean, obviously, we still have ways to have some good deployments and fast response. So,
yeah, and then for like the Furies, I know one thing that was really cool that I really wanted to try, but I believe they patched it out and you can't do it anymore, was people were taking the fuel pods off of the Starfarer and they were like attaching the Furies underneath, so they just like drop down like like B-1 battle droids off like troop carriers.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's kind of cool.
It definitely
I believe they've patched that out.
Oh, yeah, I think so. It definitely would give the Starfarer some interesting things to do, more so than just a refueler or an odd cargo hauler. But, yeah, that would be kind of cool if we could attach different things, and especially ships, to kind of have rapid deployment like that would be awesome.
Well, people always talk about the Idris and like how it has like this full through of hangar and just filling that with Furies and then launching them out.
Oh yeah.
People are forgetting something. And I don't think anybody's ever said this, at least that I've seen. Someone may have said it, but I haven't seen anybody say it.
Okay.
Think about this. The whole E with Furies.
Yeah.
That will be terrifying. It just deploys 1,000 Furies. It's like swatting a beehive.
I was just going to say it would just be like a swarm just... That would be
It's
intense.
like, oh, look at that tiny little...
Oh, no. Yeah, that would be
was
intense.
At that moment, he knew.
Yeah. But even thinking about the Idris, there's how many can fit in that thing will be
I
interesting
think
to see.
somebody said like 130 or 140.
Oh gosh.
I think they based it on like the sizing. Like it was a lot.
Yeah.
But the whole that it's designed to carry like cutlasses from one
Right.
place to another.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it'll
You
be
know?
interesting to see, especially those deployments with like the Fury MX. Will be awesome to see how people utilize them, and especially when we start getting more of those carriers and larger ships into the game, like the Polaris and stuff, because that's kind of the first capital-ish ship that we're going to get that people are going to get their hands on and start testing those kind of things about those large deployments of the smaller ships. And I think it's
like it's weird because I don't see a Fury unless it's for racing. I only ever see the racing Furies out anymore. I don't think I've ever flown and saw a Fury MX or a Fury just out in the wild.
Right. Well, I think, and again, I think it's because of those, like, you have to load it up and take it somewhere in something bigger. And people, like I say, people aren't doing that so much. I mean, I've seen people load them up into C1s, which is interesting and would be crazy to see one fly.
I don't know if it can see one.
Yeah. Yes, they do. They, I've seen. I think you can get 2 Furies in the C1.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Right.
I knew you can get 2 in the bottom of the Carrack. I thought that was a tight fit, but I didn't think about the C1.
Yeah. People have tried. People have tried everything. They apparently follow Grey Ghost's philosophy of trust the process.
Trust the process.
So people are trying those things, but like I said, I think once we start getting those bigger ships into the game, it'll be a lot easier to have those like deployments of the smaller vehicles, and I think the Furies will come back. I think just right now it's hard because you can't jump them across the system to go attack a target. Like you have to be within your local system, which I think for that they'd be pretty great for like point defense within like the Crusader system or the Microtech system, and where you can jump to a moon real quick. Although can they jump to the moons?
They don't have a jump drive.
No, that's what I guess. So yeah. So they wouldn't even.
You have to take your ship there and then deploy.
Yeah. So I think like you're saying, that's why we're not really seeing them a whole lot, like you say, other than the racing ones, because there are some great tracks that people can take them to. But yeah, I think once we kind of get those slightly bigger carriers, I think people will see them as a great asset because they are so tiny and you can fit 100 in the Idris or whatever, multiples in the Carrack and stuff. I think people will start using them once we get those kind of slightly bigger ships, because then they can have a bunch of friends and have a rapid deployment of those smaller vehicles.
Yeah, because I know when the Polaris comes out, because I want to test if the Apollo fits, obviously, because it looks like it will.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of iffy because they haven't confirmed it.
Right.
But looking at the 3D models, it looks like it will. But I definitely will be having my CAR and some Furies in my Polaris, because that just makes sense.
Sure.
Like I'm not gonna leave the room, but 2 Pisces and like 2 Furies, I think will easily fit in there.
Yeah. Well, and it gives us opportunities if like something comes up, we can have people jump in whatever we need and take off with that. So yeah, I think that's
exactly
the best way to have our ships set up and ready to go, is to have multiple options to whatever the scenario necessitates, because we can, like I say, jump in a rescue or jump in some fighters and protect the ship or whatever we need to do.
So let's give the Fury MX a rating out of 10. So we're gonna base it on.
Is it gonna be a random?
Our personal. We're gonna base it on how we see it useful for quantum jump, as well as its usefulness in general for like other organizations. And we're doing it at the time of now, not in the future.
Right.
So like in the future, obviously it'll be better because of the fleet carriers. But like as of today, January 28th, 2024.
Yeah.
How useful is it?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go first, and I'll say 7. Because it is useful. Like,
Yeah.
and it's very useful for us in Quantum Jump because it adds an extra security aspect to our medical ship. So even if we, because the Pisces can jump on its own, so it doesn't need the Carrack per se.
Right.
So if we ran a larger scale operation, we could have 2 Pisces running in and out and some Furies as escorts for the Carrack.
Right. Yeah, and that does give us more guns for whatever ship is the flagship and keeps us safe. I'm trying. I think I'm going to go a little lower. I think I'm going to go with a 5. I think, like I say, it is good for that point defense, but having to put it in one of the current vehicles, which are not really set up for it at the moment. I mean, we're kind of, like I say, fitting it in the garage of the Carrack or fitting it in a C1 or whatever is not necessarily easy rapid deployment. So that's kind of why my only reasoning for going a little lower. I think, like I said, once they are deployed and they're with a bigger ship, they are very good for that. Like I say, point defense or having extra guns for the Carrack or whatever it is great and is useful for us. But just overall, it's kind of doesn't have its place yet, I don't think.
Yeah, definitely will be way better down the future.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, most definitely. All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up for this episode. Like we said, we wanted to kind of go over what the point of this podcast is and show some of what we're going to be talking about throughout the time. So yeah, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Bye, everybody.